We are back.
We're back.
And we are back with some great news.
What's the news, Jill?
Todd and I have a surprise to share with you guys.
It might not be a surprise. We have done a little promotion, but who knows? No one is really seeing
It's been a while since we've been on our YouTube channel because we have been working very, very hard. And we have something to show you guys. This is our book. It's finally done.
It's done.
So this is our labor of love. We have been working on this for, oh my gosh, how long, Todd?
Oh, where do we start? We met almost 4 years ago. It's coming up on our 4-year anniversary.
It's been that long.
The opening date, you guys might have heard this, who knows, but we're going to say it anyway. We met on Bumble.
Yes, we did.
And I'll let Jill, because she does it better than I do, as far as how we met and her line to me.
I had written a book and I just didn't feel like it was good enough. I felt like it was missing something, and I just had, my soul was telling me that there's someone else that's going to come into my life that will help me really take it to another level, get deeper with it. And
was it someone with a beard?
And yes. I actually had a friend like 15 years ago tell me that she had a dream about me meeting somebody with like a gray hair that was going to come into my life. And she saw me writing a book, which is, at the time I thought, I don't even hardly read books. Like, why would I write a book? It's been such a journey to get here, but
wow.
Yeah. So kind of some crazy things leading up to it. And when I saw Todd, he had his career listed as an editor. So I said, hey, do you want to help me publish my book?
And we tell that story in the book too, because it's quite funny. But I remember Jill comes from a background of spirituality, and I come from personal development. And again, it's so funny because we put this in the book, but it's just hilarious. Is because she is a spiritual person, I'm a personal development person. Although they have things in common, she was speaking a different language to me.
Yeah. So he said, email me your book and I'll take a look at it. And from there, we got together and we started talking about how we could change the book to make it better. And we spent, 2 years. I took him on back through everything that I had gone through on my soul's journey. I call it my Soulful Journey, like our brand here. What it took for me to connect with my soul and bring fulfillment and meaning into my life. And I wanted him to go through the transformation himself and have his own journey. And so, we went down to St. George and...
During the pandemic, again, it's over the last 4 years, it's been kind of a stop and start.
We walked the labyrinth together. He had his own experience with that.
Yeah, we did.
And we went to Ouray, Colorado, and had an experience with that.
There's only so much you can do during the pandemic, right? We could pretty much in your car. And we went to all 4 corners of our state to kind of follow what her journey was. And
so Todd was able to get his head around my spiritual mumbo jumbo language that he said sounded crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's been fun. Oh yeah, we're coming up on our 4th year anniversary, and the whole book. When I looked at it the other day, I just thought, wow, this is kind of a history of us, in a way, because it's a lot of the stuff of what Jill's learned and on her journey and a little bit through mine. And so it's been a labor, like I just kind of said, labor of love.
We're super excited to share it with you guys. And it's pretty cool because it is a healing framework, and it takes the 4 parts of ourselves, our heart, mind, body, and soul, and puts us back into balance and wholeness. And so as we heal the parts of ourselves and we rise from the human ego journey and we rise to the soulful journey of becoming soulful of love, that we want to pass it on. So that's kind of what the journey is about, is how to get off of the human ego journey and to get on the soulful journey to really connect with your soul and align with your highest self. So we came up with Let Your Soul Take Control for the name of the book, because we realized that it's kind of like when you're driving a car, right? Our vessel, our car, our vehicle is us, our body, our human body. And so who's driving that? Is that the ego that's in the driver's seat, or is that the soul that's in the driver's seat? And what we're trying to do is help you find that balance where those 2 parts of ourselves work together, because the ego has a purpose in helping us align with our highest self, which is our soul. Yeah. And that's where the soul has the power to heal us from what we've been through with the human ego survival journey of experiencing fear and rising above that and healing that by bringing love to it.
Okay. So on one of our walks, this is one of our breakthrough things that we just thought, we just loved the whole concept of it, was the 4 Ps. And so we have getting stuck in pain, getting stuck in the past, getting stuck in perfection, and getting stuck in protection.
We wanted to stand in the shoes of who we're speaking to, who our target markets are. We're like, who is this book going to help? And how can we help them? How can we get down to it? As I was stating, my healing journey by studying the 4 parts of ourselves, the heart, mind, body, and soul, I realized that the heart is what gets broken. And we can get stuck in trying to heal our heart. And so that's where getting stuck in pain comes in. And so when we tried to break that down and say, who is this book for? People that are in pain. We had to really understand pain and why pain was part of the human ego journey. And we realized that a lot of us that are in pain, whether it's a health problem, a relationship heartbreak,
a job loss,
any lack or loss of any kind, losing a parent, which is something you've been through, Todd, as a child.
Yeah.
You could talk about that. So there's all kinds of pain out there, and there's fears and codependency and being stuck in victimhood and all these things. It's not just overcoming trauma, because pain is part of the human experience. Like, nobody gets through this life without experiencing pain. And pain's role is to pay attention inside now. That's what it stands for, which means it's there to wake us up and help us realize that pain was never our home. It's love. Mm-hmm. Love is our home. Love is what our cells on the inside of our body want. That's what we want, to live in that environment of love. That's when our cells of our body will thrive, not in pain.
Right.
And as this book, if this book speaks to you, you may be suffering with some sort of getting over some sort of a painful situation. And part of the problem when we get in pain is that our natural reaction as a human being for survival is to crawl within, to contract, right? And to basically we want to numb ourselves and not feel. And so this process of how to have your soul help you heal the pain is to get back to feeling and healing again. Because if you're not feeling and you're not allowing, if you're just suppressing and shoving emotions down, and you're using addictions and any type of addiction, gaming, shopping, or alcohol, drugs, or sex, like there's all sorts of ways that we as human beings, we're not comfortable with feeling pain. Yeah. And so we want to numb that, but then that actually stops us from healing our hearts. And then we get stuck because we haven't healed our heart. And the soul wants to help us heal our heart by helping us get back into touch with our human selves of feeling, so that it can bring the love in, because love is what heals all the painful emotions.
Yeah. So partly from my loss, one of the things is people who have experienced some type of loss. And I go through my part a little bit in the book, but it's that we don't really know how pain, we take pain throughout the rest of our lives, because it's like, it started when I was young. My mother passed away when she was 35, and we were very, very close. And
you were how old?
I was 11. And so it's amazing how we take that pain, and I never had really counseling when I was a kid or anything. There didn't really even exist back then, obviously. But it's like all the things that I have learned since then, like of how much I've been in pain, and I took that to relationship to relationship. Because
it wasn't healed.
Right.
So when we don't heal our painful patterns, we just keep recreating them to bring them into the present moment, so that it gives us another opportunity to heal it, to feel it and heal it. Yeah. So part of what the book addresses in helping people overcome pain and heal their hearts is getting back in touch with your emotions. Because we are emotional sentient beings, and we are supposed to have emotions. But because we want to shut our hearts down, close them off, put walls around it, we stop ourselves from feeling pain, but then we stop ourselves from feeling joy and love and play, right? Which is the energy of the soul. The soul just wants to play and feel alive, feel good. So to get back to feeling good again, we really have to open our hearts again. And
that's
we have to be
thing.
willing to take the walls down that we've built around our heart and be vulnerable, and to start allowing those painful emotions the pain has a message, and we have to figure out what pain's message is, so that we can then learn the lesson and let it go.
Yeah. And I guess the pain, maybe you can kind of elaborate on this, it doesn't get easier as you get older.
No,
right?
it gets worse.
And the walls actually go up higher
Yeah.
and are more thick because of the life experience that you have.
The way that the brain works
right?
with the amygdala is it's meant to keep us alive. When we experience a painful situation, we're like, warning, I'm never going there again. I'm going to remember that scenario. And so that's how the amygdala works, is the fight or flight response. And we have those memories that we keep. But the problem is that those painful memories and that pattern of being human and our survival instinct is actually stopping us from healing, because we just keep recreating the same painful experiences over and over again and not actually letting us feel the pain, heal from the pain, learn from the pain, and let it go. Right. And so that's part of what the soul can do, is to help you through that process. And that's kind of a summary of what the first stage of the soulful journey is to feel alive. We want to feel fully alive. And if we're not fully feeling all of the energies, all of the emotions, the pain and the joy, or the pain and the play, we have to get back to feeling sentient beings.
Kind of just a little kind of history about how this all came. The name Alive is that it was going to be awake, but we're like, it didn't really speak to what we were trying to talk about. And then more about alive as, again, when you see, we have grandkids. She's got
I've got four and one in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, and I got 4 So it's fun to see how these little children act and play. And it's nice when, as you get old, they have just so much joy.
The energy levels.
Yeah,
I mean, they're like
just
triple charged Energizer bunnies. They just bounce. Like the other day, my daughter sent me a video of my granddaughter, and she's just bouncing off the walls to the music because she has so much energy. Her little body can't contain it.
Right.
So we look at our inner child, which is our soul, and our soul is like that inner child that just wants to feel alive and just wants to play every day.
Yeah. In the book, we talk about this, what we call the creation codes. Like when we were born, we were installed with these perfect codes, like happiness, and we knew how to be joyful. We knew how to love. And all things love. That when kids, when they first have any type of consciousness, they are just happy. They're always smiling. And
they'll be anybody's friend.
Right.
There's no judgment.
And as they grow older and older and they get to be adults, that's when those things start to get pushed down. We just get beaten down because it's time to grow up now, to be an adult. And we're kind of like saying we need to have more of that childlike feeling in our lives more. Mm-hmm. And
I want to show them a picture of the creation codes. So at the beginning of each chapter, we list the part of the body that's being healed, which is the heart. And then we list the creation codes as to what the soul's innate, nature is and what we're getting back to. So the past.
Getting stuck in the past.
So a big area where the ego gets us stuck is in our mind. We get stuck replaying like our life experiences of the past. It's like we have these thoughts and these thought patterns which become beliefs, and those beliefs that we replay like a broken record in our mind over and over again, they keep us stuck in the past, because we end up, if we don't learn from our life experiences, then we can't take what's good and throw the rest away. And we haven't done the discerning and the learning and the discerning from our life experiences. Because we really need to challenge those belief patterns that are keeping us limited, which we call, in the book, we call them bullshit beliefs. And we need to look at and realize that they're not true, that there's no basis to form truth on. A lot of people out there, and I think that most of us can relate to being stuck in the past at some point. There are, with me in particular, getting over your divorce, letting go of your ex-husband, or letting go of some other relationship, or losing a loved one. I've lost my parents, right? So you've lost both of your parents as well. So there's loss, and it's hard to get over loss, but we have to process that loss, and we have to figure out what we're doing in our current thought patterns and belief programs that are keeping us recreating painful life experiences.
Right.
So we have to look at the programs that are driving our behavior and figure out how we are bringing those into the present moment. So if we don't want to create the past, we need to know what we're doing so that we can see it and we can stop it.
Okay. Let's give an example of, let's say, a relationship. Tell us about as far as, let's just say your relationship, or I can even do mine.
If you've been hurt from a previous relationship and you were forced to go through a breakup, and you still love that person, because we always do. We're always going to love people that we have to let go of. We can find ourselves just yearning for that old relationship. Like, my marriage was 25 years. I yearned for my old life because I loved my life. I loved my husband. I loved my children. I had a successful business. It was comfortable. And at the time, I wasn't seeing that whole life was based on an illusion, that it wasn't, that it was a lie, that there was no real love involved in it, and that it was all based around money. And so I was yearning for that. So as a divorcee, I end up attracting people that are just like my ex, because I am bringing the past of what I'm wanting into the present moment, because I haven't learned from it.
I think the word that kind of stuck out there was comfortable. Is like because again, our past, it was so wonderful, and we hate change.
We hate change.
Right? Change is like one of the worst things as far as if you were tied to the past.
We'd rather stay comfortable in pain than actually get out of that comfort zone, because the unknown is scarier. If you're waiting on your past to come and find you again, you're waiting on your ex, you're waiting to reconcile, you're waiting for someone to say that you forgive them, or they forgive you. If you're waiting on anything from the past to happen, then you're stuck in the past.
Well, it's like living with the parking brake on, because you can't really go forward until you actually get rid of that.
And what happens too is, you might not realize that you're holding on to the past, but you're not open to the present moment or the future. You may be holding back in what you're giving to other people in your life. Like, you may have the perfect person right in front of your face, but you're not looking at them. So you're holding back. You're not giving to that person because, you're waiting for this past thing to reconcile.
Well, especially if that person is not giving you what you got in the past.
Yeah, you'll close off and not allow yourself to be open, and then the universe cannot work with you.
Yeah.
Because you're not in the present moment. You're stuck in the past.
Yeah.
And you're closed off and you're waiting.
So we're both divorced. I'm divorced about 4 years. And I think that was the most interesting thing when I finally got back into the dating game before I met you. Was that you'd meet some of these women, and the first thing that they want to talk about is their ex-husband. Or just and it was just diatribe of just bad thing after bad thing after bad story. I'm just like, okay, why are you dating if this is the way you feel? You should go into a new relationship with just, okay, I'm ready for the future. I've dealt with my past, and I'm ready to move forward. And so that's I think one experience that I've had as far as the people who are just stuck. And
they just keep talking about the past.
Yeah, and so it doesn't work.
The way things used to be.
The conversation goes really poorly because they want to just bring it right back to their ex-husband.
And they're really not open to a new relationship.
No, they're not.
Because their mind is still thinking about that other person.
Right. They're not actually wanting to get to know you. It's almost like a venting session. I'm here to be that, almost like a therapist. And that doesn't usually work.
And I remember being in that situation after my divorce, and I went to lunch with a high school friend, and she's like, how long are you going to tell yourself that sob story? Like, how long are you going to keep recreating the same old sob story? Like, when are you going to get over it? And that was like, oh, wow. I have the power to actually rewrite the way I think about my past. And so reframe it, rewrite it, retell it, and literally reprogram my brain so that it's not bringing the past issues into the present moment where I repeat them over and over again.
I think another kind of scenario is like being that nostalgic parent, not really wanting to see, it's a bittersweet experience when your kids leave the house, right? You are excited to be an empty nester, but you're also going to be missing those times when they're not there.
There's these stages of life that life is constantly changing and evolving, and we go from childhood, and then we go into being a teenager, and then we go into being a young adult, and then we go into being a parent, and then we might go through a divorce, and we might have to learn to break codependency and be independent, right? So there's all these stages of life that we go through,
Yeah.
And life is constantly moving and evolving and changing. And if we don't learn from a particular stage of life, then we can get stuck in that stage of life. If there's a lesson, and a lot of times the clients that I work with, I have to take them back to the original place where the break took place. And so if something happened in your childhood, we have to go back to that moment when you realized you were not enough or you were broken, to be able to figure out what do we need to learn from this so that we don't keep repeating this pattern and bringing it into our adulthood. We're constantly living, we're constantly learning, but the problem is we often don't pause in our life experiences long enough to look back at the past and then discern from it and figure out what the lesson was.
Right.
So because once we see it and we become aware of what we needed to see, that's where our consciousness expands. Then we can actually let go of what's harmful. We can keep what's helpful. We can discard what's harmful. So that's what our chapter of the Soulful Journey of Aware is all about, is looking at your brain and the life experiences that your brain has been processing and figuring out what your thought patterns and belief patterns have been, and whether they're harmful or helpful. And then we get rid of the harmful things and we only keep the helpful things that help support us in seeing our value and our worth and put us on a healthy path.
Perfect.
So the next place that we get stuck is in disconnection, and we call that perfection.
Oh, fun.
The P, the perfection.
This is a fun one.
So perfection comes from a place of ego, because the ego thinks that it has to be perfect in order to be loved, because the ego doesn't see its value, right? So in the human journey, we have our old way of life pre-COVID, where we thought that the solution to life was buying things, hair extensions, eyelashes, lip plumpers, nice cars, nice houses, nice clothes. It was all about what kind of a front could we put on that shows that we've got all our stuff together, that we're perfect, that we live the perfect life, that we come across as being seen as perfect. Well, the ego is constantly creating that facade because it really doesn't know its value.
Yeah. And I think from my standpoint, when I think of perfection in my life, it's been more about not wanting to move forward until this happens. And I see a lot of younger couples and kids going through the same thing. It's like, oh, I have to have this much money in the bank before I have kids.
Or I have to have all my ducks in a row before I launch my business.
Yeah,
or
it's like
I have to lose the weight before I can attract a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
We're waiting. We're always waiting to take action to when we think that everything's perfect.
Yeah, that's one of the, I think the biggest ones just for me that I struggle with is that in just doing things messy and just, it's like, I don't know how to do this, but guess what? We learned how to do an audiobook, right? Did we have any experience with it?
None.
No. We dove in.
Journey.
We dove in and we had a lot of mistakes, and we just and then once you start doing things that you haven't done before, and then it becomes contagious and you're like, okay, let's do this. But so many people are just like, I have to have, we've had this even in our own podcast of, the lighting has to be this certain way, or I have to wear this certain thing.
Way.
No, all it matters is the content.
But we need to script what we're going to say,
Exactly.
right? Which is boring.
That is a big, I think, hang up for people, is that they are just almost too afraid to venture out because they think, well, I have to be this way because that is what society is telling me, that I have to be this perfect
But if
thing,
we're on a path of the ego constantly seeking perfection, then we never really discover the truth of who we are. Because the other part of life is that life is imperfect.
Oh.
It's perfectly imperfect. We have bodies that are going to break down and get sick. We have bodies that are going to age. We're going to die someday. Life is not perfect all of the time. So if we're setting ourselves up to be disappointed by rejecting part of life, which is death, which is imperfections, which is struggles. When we reject those imperfections, we're literally disconnecting ourselves from our soul, because our soul knows that death is part of life, our soul knows that struggle is part of life and that our soul can guide us through the struggles. Our soul is connected to all parts of life, including death. Our soul can help us accept the imperfections because it's in the accepting, in the journey of embracing our flaws and imperfections that we actually discover our innate worth as a spiritual being. So we don't ever get to experience the greatness that lives inside here until we realize that we get sick and we need that to connect with that other part of ourselves to heal. Right. And so the soul is wanting to us to come back into balance and remember our innate perfection. And we don't need to be seeking perfection. We can live with imperfections because we are perfect spiritual beings. So we can live with being human and imperfect, and we can live with the adversities, and we can live with the struggles, right? The endings, the sicknesses, the endings in relationships, the losses, losing a job, losing a loved one. The soul can help us get through that. And it's in that process of when we actually let go of our ego that we actually discover our innate value as an infinite spiritual.
I mean, what better way than in a scenario of looking for that ideal relationship, right? We talk about the checking the boxes, which everyone talks about. Oh, he checks all the boxes, like, at least 8 to 10, right? We have this checklist that we have to have done before we actually go forward, right?
But that keeps us disconnected. Like we're not going to be connecting with anyone if we want to project our perfections on other people to say, well, you have to be perfect in order for me to connect with you. Right. So it keeps us, by not accepting imperfections, it keeps us disconnected, and it keeps the ego in control, thinking you're not there yet. You're not perfect yet. You don't deserve love yet, which is bullshit. Right.
Yeah.
So the ego keeps you in the lie of perfection. Yeah. Because it's a lie. You don't need to seek it. You don't need to be on a journey to seek perfection and always checking the boxes. Because if you're truly connected with your soul, then you're a loving being and you're going to accept the imperfections in a partner and just bring love to the situation anyway.
Yeah. Because what does society trumpet out there? What are the things that the world wants you to be?
The worldly values.
They want you to be beautiful,
rich.
Like everybody. Yeah. The big three, kind of like the money, the status, the power kind of things.
You're nothing unless you have money, status, power, which is actually an illusion.
Yeah.
Because the spiritual part of us knows that every single living thing is connected and it is worth it all, the whole universe. We're connected to that.
It's not just because those people don't have that doesn't mean that they are any less. Of course, you want to make sure that you can provide for people and for for relationship and things like that. But those things can be worked on. And that's what society that's what they deem important, instead of there could be that perfect person that's perfect for you down the street that maybe...
But because they don't look like your ex, you just think so.
Right. It's like you doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and that doesn't work.
So when we're disconnected from our soul and we're pushing love away and we're pushing relationships away, we're not trusting people, we're not trusting the universe, we're not in that place of connection. We're in the place of control. Instead of being in a place of connection, we're in a place where the ego wants to control everything and make everything perfect. Well, that's when we become miserable as human beings, because we're stuck in our ego. We're stuck in the ego's perfection of having to control everything to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know how exhausting it is when you have OCD and you go around the house picking up everybody's shoes and all the clothes that they put on? Like my daughter talks, and I used to have a shoe basket that I'd carry around the house, and I'd be miserable because I was constantly cleaning up everybody else's messes, but I couldn't relax in the imperfections. The expectation is just too high, right? It's not unconditionally loving to expect perfection. It's a lie. Because the other part of us realizes that as humans, our bodies were made to be imperfect and get old and die. Mm-hmm. So we really, to get back and aligned with the truth of who we are, is to embrace the imperfections. And then in that process of realizing that we are human beings and we can embrace our human imperfections, in that process, we actually discover that we are perfectly perfect. Like we're spiritual and we're perfect spiritual beings. We find and discover our worth and our value and our truth through the process of embracing our imperfections. So that's the journey of ascension. That is the third step in the soulful journey, is to ascend, to be constantly growing, evolving, learning.
Yeah.
becoming more,
And that
becoming abundant.
And part of the whole book, writing this book process, is finding those examples that really resonate, not only for experiences that we had, that would also resonate with you.
Ascend is kind of a hard thing to really understand, but it
is.
just means that we're spiritual beings and we want to be on a path that's helping us continually grow. But if we're holding on to the ego's path of perfection, then we're basically not learning the truth, because we're basically keeping ourselves on a path of that's a lie.
Well, and disconnected too.
We're disconnected. We're lonely. We're not connecting with other people. Life is harder. We're not open to where the universe can actually work with us, because we're stuck in our pride. So how can the universe work with someone that's closed off and stuck in their pride? Right. When we're in control, it's like we're sitting back and saying, I got this. I don't need your help, universe or soul. We need to be, that's why the universe often in the time that we're living right now, we're really living during the time of the ascension, where we're literally being hammered, broken open by the universe. The floods, the fires, the crazy weather patterns,
COVID,
the economy, the health, what we're facing with the health care system. This is all happening because it's a time of great awakening, when we need to learn to let go and grow beyond this, right?
Perfect.
And so that's a lot about connecting with our soul, is learning to let go and let our soul guide us through the times of ascension, which are the times of accepting the imperfections and accepting the struggles that we're going through, and then showing up and being there for one another during that.
All right, let's move on to the last one, getting stuck in protection.
It's the physical realm, our physical reality, what we're actually creating. And so we come back to, are we being a creator or are we being a reactor to life? Okay.
Yep.
And so when we're reacting to life, then we're basically stuck in protection. So that's, again, when we're being, defensive, and we're keeping people at bay. We're keeping life at bay. It's when the ego's in control. It's when the ego wants to make the decisions and the ego often is making decisions based on fear. Right. It's afraid of life. It's constantly in that state of protection from life. It's fighting against life.
Right.
It's not flowing with life.
One thing I learned was that fear is a liar. It is that
it's feeding energy against reality. That's our acronym.
There's a great quote. I'm not sure it's from. We fear from day one. We fear all these things that we're wanting to do, and we're thinking that all these things are going to happen to us, and they never happen. They never end up being what we were fearing.
And it can keep us from acting. Because we don't want to
it's like
be brave and discover our greatness. So we just never act.
Yeah. Like I said, it's having the parking brake on in life, because fear is that mountain that we have to climb to get over. And there's another great quote. I'm not sure who it was from. It's, if we just knew what's over that mountain of fear, we would willingly go through that fear to get to the other side.
So we're human beings. And we're emotional, sentient beings. And it's our emotions that often trap us in fear. And it's our emotions that cause us to move in such a way that we react to life. It's the emotions that bring up fears that are causing us to be defensive and reactive. And so I'm sure that every single person here knows of someone that just gets set off really quickly. If you say the wrong thing, they get set off. That's a reactive person, right? We all are rising above reaction, because we're all emotional, reactive human beings.
But it comes back to the fact that they are fearful of something. They're fear that, that person's going to leave me if I don't act this way, or I'm going to lose my job if I try to go out and expand my career in some way. Everyone has that fear.
Or I'm afraid that I won't be successful if I start that business.
Right.
Or that I won't be successful in a relationship if I enter into a new relationship. Fear keeps us stuck in so many ways. And so the opposite of fear is love. And so that it's love that actually heals us from the fear. And so if we can intentionally, in the moment, if we can catch ourselves when that fear comes up and say, I'm being reactive, stop. What would love do? How do I bring love to the situation right now? How do I consciously create love in this moment? How can I embody the energy of love in this moment? How can I act love now? That's what will cause us to pause and change what we're actually manifesting in our reality.
And some other scenarios. of this shying away from relationships because you have been so hurt. Again, this is of a growing pattern. Like we have that pain, which leads to, and then we're fearful, and then we are trying to then, move on, but we can't. Something's just holding us back.
Because you haven't gone through the process to heal the pain. To get rid of the painful programming. Right. And to reprogram yourself with healthy, loving thoughts.
So if there's people out there who are afraid of getting into a new relationship because...
And I think that what I've seen in relationships and even in myself is that when we've been hurt in a relationship before, we experience the energy of lack. Or loss. Loss and lack are the same energy. And that puts us automatically in fear because we've lost something. We don't want to lose it again. So then we hold on. And so when we're holding on or when we're closed off or I can't share, I don't have enough, there's not enough to go around, that's the energy of lack. And when we're in that energy of lack, then we're not really open to the blessings and abundance of the universe. And so we have to open ourselves again. We have to get over our fears and holding back, holding our love back, not giving fully of ourselves, not fully being ourselves. If we're holding back in some way, it's because of fear. So to overcome fear, we want to be able to express that love, bring that love out of us, to be able to give our gift, act love at the moment, right? Because acting love attracts love. That's how, like energy, what's going on inside is what's going to match us on the outside, right? In our physical reality. So if we can just change the environment inside here of the energy that we embody from fear and change that to love, then we will start to attract abundance in our life because love and abundance are on the same level.
And again, part through my process of this whole thing is like when you get divorced, I had to start over. Pretty much everything, relationship, financial. It was devastating, but rebuilding. Yeah, it hasn't been easy. You get in a spot where you get stuck because you're so used to not trying new things that you don't even want it. Nothing really looks inviting. But when I got divorced, I was like, wow, it's happened at the same time that I became an empty nester. And I was like, wow, there's all these things that I want to try now. And Jill had this thing called saying yes. Say yes to life, right? Say
yes to the universe.
Yeah, go and try it. You're not going to know it if you like it until you try it. That became my mantra for a long time.
So you're following your heart.
Yeah.
When you want to shift your energy to the energy of love, to where you're embodying love, what would love do? What is it that's going to bring me joy? What's going to bring me love in the moment? And then just doing that every moment, and then that adds up to where we love every moment, and then pretty much our life starts to change.
We can get stuck in like that pattern of doing certain things that you do all the time, right? You go to the same restaurants. We are creatures of routine. We love routine. And you said a trip to Uray, right? Remember how you said? I said, well, that's a out of the way place. I'm not sure if I want to go, but you did, and you loved it. And Jill did skydiving. What was it? You did parasailing. I'm like, I was checking her Facebook profile out and all these pictures. She's hang gliding with this guy. I'm just like, whoa. I'm like impressed because she was like out there trying all these new things that she hadn't done before. And I think that's a lot of times, especially when you get our age, you get locked into doing certain things.
Behavior
patterns, that just where we feel like, why is my life so humdrum? Well, it's because you're in a rut of routine. You need to go out and take your wife and go on a trip or go somewhere new that you haven't experienced.
In every moment, we have the opportunity to rebuild a new life. So we can be a creator, not a reactor. Because when we're reacting to life, we're just stuck at the same old behavioral patterns that are producing the same old experiences. When we come out of a divorce, we're forced to change and get out of our comfort zone and start recreating and rebuilding our life.
Right.
And that takes moment by moment. It's like biting off one piece at a time. You just have to keep in every moment doing something that you love, and in every moment making sure that you're creating love, then you will create a life that you can love, right? And not a life that you're reacting to, that's fear.
Part of the last part of the book, we kind of borrowed a segment from Brene Brown, right? Of being in the arena. Mm-hmm. Just love that whole concept of life is about being in the arena, not in the stands eating popcorn.
Observing others and judging them and criticizing them. Right?
Yeah, it's like you want to be down in the dust and sweating and all.
Marred and scarred. Yeah.
Marred and scarred. There's a great quote by Teddy Roosevelt. That's what kind of what Brené's book is based on. But that is like so important.
So when we are conscious creators and we're creating the life that we deserve, then we're being conscious in every moment about what is the energy that I'm embodying, how am I acting, and what am I attracting in my reality. Because how I act shapes my reality, and it's being accountable for our actions that actually helps us change our reality. And that's the hardest part, because the old world, pre-COVID times, we were all used to just living in the illusion, living in the lies of what was important and not questioning whether those were helpful or harmful ways to live and patterns of behavior. And now that the world's very confused and we're trying to rebuild and recreate a future and a better life that's more balanced and healthy and whole, or our bodies are more healthy, our relationships are more healthy. That's what we want, but we're trying to figure out how do we be conscious creators of the new era, right? The new reality that we're trying to bring into existence. And that is to just embody being a creator. What do we want our life to look like? What do we want our reality to be? Instead of just reacting and doing the same things that we've been doing for millions of years as instinctive animals that are just trying to survive, or do we want to actually thrive and be creators?
Right.
We want to be able to align our actions with our highest self, with our soul. And when we know our truth and we know that we are beings of love, then we can align with love and not align with fear. And when we're aligning with love, we're not being protective anymore. So that's how we get out of that pattern of being protective and constantly focusing on fear.
Yeah. Let's talk about what would love do. I always loved, that was one of my favorite things.
So some of my coaching clients have given me the feedback that that's been one of the most powerful things that they've walked away with from my sessions. And I take religion out of it because I don't want to fight about who's right. I just want to do the right thing. And so I just use the word love, not religion. And instead of what would Jesus do, I would say, what would love do? Let's just take religion out of it.
It's essentially the same thing.
It is the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's the golden rule too. The golden rule is treat others the way that you want to be treated. And if we can just show up as love in every moment, then little by little, we change our patterns of behavior to align with love, not fear. Yeah. And that helps when it comes to if I'm trying to rebuild and heal my body, if I'm trying to rebuild a healthy relationship, or if I'm trying to rebuild my finances in my bank account, or if I'm trying to rebuild a new career for myself, of something that's aligned with my passion, right? Yeah. If we're in the final step of manifestation, which is bringing things into reality, then we have to really look inside and be accountable for the energy that we embody, because that energy is what drives us to act. And we're either acting in alignment with fear, or we're acting in alignment with love. We're either aligning with our lower self, which is our human ego, or we're aligning with our higher self, which is our soul.
I think asking what would love do is really helpful in daily actions, is because when you're getting up in the morning and you're like, okay, what would love do? Love would say, if you loved yourself, you'd go to the gym, right? And you'd get your butt out of bed. You know, it helps with those daily decisions of when you're in a fiery argument. That's what would love do.
How can I hold my tongue in this moment and not hurt the other person? Because the pattern so often when we're protective is to just be defensive and then create more pain for the relationship. Just throw something back out. I call it the fiery darts that we're throwing at each other all the time. That's the painful pattern. So yeah, definitely we have the power as creators of our lives. You can't take the creator out of the creation. They're tied. They're one and the same. And so we have to be accountable for the reality that we are creating for ourselves. And if we don't like, what's out here, if we don't like our body or our health, or if we're not happy with our health or our relationships or our career or how much money's in our bank account, it really comes back to, how did I create that? How did the energy inside me drive me to align my actions with fear or love, right? And so if we want to adjust our reality and change our reality, then we have to change ourselves and the way that we act and what we attract.
Right. And it leads us to the subtitle of our book, to tell you to stop reacting to life and start creating it. When we react to life, we're reacting out of fear. And when we create life, we're actually acting out of love.
Yeah, I think that pretty
Anything
much does
else?
it. So we're powerful creators. We don't need to
Yeah.
be, reactors that are constantly trying to survive. We can actually pull ourselves out of that survival mentality and that lack mentality and start to align with abundance and our true worth as who we are as spiritual beings. And our soul has the power to guide us through that process.
Perfect. Okay. Any closing thoughts? Anything?
Just what a crazy journey that
This
it's
has been
been
fun.
being my intuition guiding me to Todd, giving birth to this book. It's been a good 10 to 15 year journey for me. And to be kind of here now where I've been practicing everything in this book, and slowly my life has changed. My relationships have changed. My career has changed. My body's changing. My health is changing. And it's all because we're practicing what we preach. We're practicing what our soul has kind of given us to learn, the principles that it wants us to align with. And Todd and I, the reason why we understand this material is because we've been practicing it in our lives on a daily basis and trying to change our own lives first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of the stories that came were just from a walk, and we're like, oh, that's an interesting topic. I never thought about that way. And now it's in the book. And
we're excited to create a community of creators and to get some people that are feel passionately about this healing framework and connecting with your soul and letting your soul guide you, because I think it's the souls that come into reality that are able to create based on truth and wholeness and health and wealth that's going to actually create a better future for all of us.
Right. Yeah, we're going to be talking more about those creators as we go forward. So we're excited to be back.
Yes, we are. We're excited to have clarity.
I'm so glad that book is done because now I can have my life back a little bit. And it's been nice.
And we would love to have your support. We would love for you guys to order a copy on Amazon. The next step in our journey is to get some book reviews. Yeah. So in order for people to get our book out there, we need reviews on Amazon, reviews on Audible. So click on the link below and go to Amazon and order your book and start listening and join our community.
So we look forward to seeing you guys again in the next couple of days or how long it's going to take us to do another video, but we're excited to be back.
And we would love your feedback, what you're liking about the book, what you're learning, sharing it with others. We would love to stay connected with you and hear what's working.
All right. I think that's it.
Okay.
It's good to be back.
All right. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye.